April 27th, 1:47 p.m. Me and my mom are off to Boulevard Park to once again film on the Bellingham subdivision. We have never been to Boulevard Park in this series, so for the first time ever, you'll be able to see trains go through Boulevard Park in Fairhaven. As right now, we are just approaching the train tracks near Bellingham. Entering the Bellingham area, we are greeted by a ship with some cranes and the Bellingham cold storage. Now, the switchers in Bellingham do use this industrial line, but they never go on here while I'm here. We have now reached the Bnsf Bellingham main line. As it looks, there's just only a few cars in the yard today, and it looks like the switcher engines are nowhere to be seen. They probably left earlier. We then pass what used to be the old train station here in Bellingham. Passenger trains used to stop here in downtown Bellingham before they were later on moved to Fairhaven, where the Amtrak Cascades trains stop today. Unfortunately, all Amtrak Cascades trains from Vancouver, BC to Seattle and Vancouver, BC to Portland, Oregon, all of those trains have been unfortunately canceled until later this year or early 2023. We now pass by the place my mom works, the Bellingham Yoga Collective. We'll come back to the Yoga Collective later in the video. We now approach the tan yellow building. Here in this part of Bellingham, there is the main line and a siding track. As you can see, there is a switch right here. All the way back in the day, Amtrak trains used to park here for the night. But now the Amtrak trains don't stop here anymore. They just go right through on the main line. However, as you can see, the siding is not abandoned and disused. As you can tell, there are some track work vehicles here in the siding. They'll set out to do some track work a bit later, and will be used when needed. Though I gotta say, that was a very nice catch. We soon arrive at Boulevard Park, hoping for the arrival of our first train. I definitely gotta say, also look at the condos up above the train tracks. And from how many trains come by here a day, I really wonder if the horns of the trains really annoy some of these people living in those condos. We both sit down at a table with a very nice view of Bellingham Bay. Here we see a boat speeding along the water. We can also see a big barge ship in the distance. Also, it is a very nice day with a mix of clouds and sunshine. A beautiful day for rail fanning. Also, I brought my trains along too and made a little layout along the table. As always, when I go somewhere. I really can't leave my trains at home, you know. I like to bring them along sometimes. Also, I got some very nice photos with the water. Also, I brought some of my ponies along as well. Sure enough, here came our first train at 2:24 p.m. On the other side in Bellingham, Bnsf 3978 leads a southbound empty coal drag. The train came back from Delta, British Columbia, dropped off its load and is now heading back south to Roundup, Montana for the Signal Peak mines. There, they will load up and go right back on another journey northbound to Delta, British Columbia, Canada. Sure enough, the train goes through Bellingham and soon enough enters Boulevard Park. Also, I want to note about the locomotives on the consist of this train. The lead locomotive is an ET-44, a Tier 4 GEVO introduced in 2015 to make trains more environmentally friendly. And the two locomotives behind it are two Bnsf fake bonnets. They used to be war bonnets of the ATSF, the Ashton, Topeka, and Santa Fe, before the merger with the Burlington Northern in 1996. When they merged with the Burlington Northern in 1995 and 1996, some of the Santa Fe war bonnets had the Santa Fe lettering patched up with the new BNSF lettering, as well as a new road number font on the cab. After the empty coal train passes, we see another boat speeding along the water. Later, at 3:36 p.m., another train arrives, this time going northbound. BNSF 7223 leads a northbound loaded coal train from the Signal Peak mines at Roundup, Montana, to the Roberts Bank Superport in Delta, British Columbia in Canada. We soon return home to the Bnsf Sumas subdivision on April 29th as the northbound Sumas turn heads through Nooksack Valley, heading northbound from Everett to Sumas. We then fast forward to May 11th as we see the Sumas turn once again going northbound. That same day, since the weather was nice that day, I decided to bring all of my wooden trains out and build a layout in the backyard. I also built a little town made of sidewalk chalk in the middle of it. It's May 21st, and we're back on the Bnsf Bellingham subdivision. For the first time, we're filming in Everett, as we see a southbound empty coal drag crawl through Everett, Washington. Just up ahead is BNSF's Delta Yard. This is where most of the trains on the Bnsf Bellingham subdivision terminate. As we go up the bridge, you'll get a very nice look at the yard. This yard is home to the many BNSF Manifest trains on the Bellingham subdivision. As you can also see in the yard, there are some switcher locomotives and a plethora of engines waiting in the sidings for their next assignments. Everett is also the place where two lines of the BNSF split. It goes from one line along the Puget Sound to one track leading on BNSF's Scenic Subdivision and the other on the Bellingham sub. We fast forward to June 4th in Nooksack, Washington at 5:15 a.m. as we get a beautiful sunrise. As we begin a long journey ahead of us, in 8:55 a.m., we arrive in Seattle, Washington, as the iconic Space Needle can be seen towering above the buildings. We soon pass a few places here in Seattle. As you can see, we are passing Lumen Field, which is home of the Seattle Seahawks, the NFL football team, and the Seattle Sounders, the Major League Soccer team. Also, there's T-Mobile Park, home of the Seattle Mariners in Major League Baseball. Also by Lumen Field is King Street Station, which is home of two Amtrak long-distance trains, the Empire Builder that goes to Chicago, and the Coast Starlight that goes to Los Angeles in California. It is also home to the many Amtrak Cascades Corridor trains, as well as the Seattle Sounder commuter trains. After getting through the chaotic Seattle traffic, we then pass this cool-looking Doritos truck. We are soon on BNSF's Seattle subdivision in Rochester, Washington. Here in Rochester, we see some tank cars, as well as a ton of grain hoppers. Entering Centralia, we pass an old grain facility. Soon after, we reach the town of Kalama in Washington. Here we see a ton of grain hoppers sitting in the siding. In Kalama, we come across our next train, BNSF 5147, an old C44 in the Heritage 2 paint scheme, leads an eastbound manifest bound for Seattle.
This fast lane is not fast.
I think that's it.
Oh yeah, I figured they're great.
Yeah, that's the place we're gonna go. They have a couple
They
of
have
them.
one of those in Earhart. Oh, they're up and down the coast. We've got one in Brookings too.
So yeah, we were gonna go there.
So that's 8 miles north of Cali. And there's and it's 8 miles south of Washington. And they're all the way down the coast.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah,
All up, and they're just going up and slamming on their brakes.
Oh, back engines. We got 1, 2, 3 of them. We soon enter Portland, Oregon, as we come across the Portland Light Rail. As you can see, it's stopping at the station. There's also a bus here as well, known as C-Tran.
There it goes.
As the light rail departs, this concludes this traveling part of the video.
Is that his old car?
He's drifted for the last couple of years.
As you can see from the sign, we are going to Portland International Raceway. I am going to see my first ever NASCAR race in person. If you want to see the full experience of me going to Portland International Raceway, I made a special vlog video. Link in description down below if you want to see it. Fast forward to June 14th, and we're back on the Bellingham subdivision, as we're back here at Waypoint Park to see some more trains on the Bellingham subdivision to close out the video. Also during this time, Puget Sound Energy was working on the power lines. So to avoid being in the power outages, we got out of the house. Anyways, at 12:07 p.m., our first train arrives. Bnsf 4236 leads a northbound manifest bound from the Delta Yard in Everett, Washington to Vancouver, BC in Canada. Also mixed in the locomotive consist is an EMD Canadian National SD70 Mac. As we have returned to Bellingham, the two switcher locomotives are back in the siding. We see our final train approach later on. This will be our final train as Bnsf 9721, an old SD70 Mac, which is painted in the H3 paint scheme, which I have not seen before. So this would be interesting. The train it was leading was a northbound coal train bound for the Roberts Bank Superport in Delta, British Columbia in Canada. And thus ends another episode of Mason's Train Videos. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I put a lot of effort into it and had a lot of fun making it. And also, look out for more episodes coming soon. But until then, I am Mason Bruce, and as always, until next time, thanks for watching.